by recognizing the city's CEDAW resolution. Yolanda Francisco-Nez from the mayor's office will speak on this. Councilmember Adams will then speak, and possibly Councilmember Mendenhall as well. And then we will go to the proclamation, and we'll have Councilmember Penfold speak, followed by George Stoddard, a friend of Kristen and Maggie, and then the mayor will read the proclamation and sign. So, Yolanda.
Yate and hello. Thank you everyone for being here today. Today's a monumental occasion as we move forward in celebrating the signing by both Mayor Biskupski and our City Council of the Cities for CEDAW initiative. The Cities for CEDAW initiative really is promoting the nationwide and worldwide effort of equality for women and girls around the world, and especially for women right here in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, over the next 6 months to a year, will inform the community about what CEDAW means. CEDAW represents the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. This particular convention is not ratified by the United States. However, we do have President Obama who supports the ratification of this particular convention. And so we will spend over, again, the next 6 months to a year informing individuals about what CEDAW is all about. Today we join women and girls from around the world who seek in building a democratic, peaceful, and prosperous society. Salt Lake City stands ready to promote human rights and open opportunities for women and girls in our society. We join the national dialogue in advancing equality for women and girls. To those sisters among us who seek equal pay, safety from violence, affordable housing, and equal representation in elected office, we invite you to join the Cities for CEDAW initiative. I express my deepest gratitude to the Salt Lake City Human Rights Commission and many other leaders who helped during the assembly of the Women's Committee. They are ahead of the curve when it comes to addressing equality and human rights for all. In 2009, the Human Rights Commission recommended that the city review what the UN's Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women was all about. The Commission's work with the Office of Diversity and Human Rights led to a citywide dialogue on women's issues and the publication of the 2013 The Status of Women Report in Salt Lake City. We support President Obama's interest to ratify CEDAW and encourage you to contact U.S. Congress and Senate leadership if you would like to see the same. To the mother who gave me her all as a single mom, teaching her girls on the Navajo Reservation and right here in Salt Lake City about true equality in a matrilineal society. We aren't there yet, but we're on our way. Thank you.
I am thrilled to stand here today with fellow council member Erin Mendenhall. We were elected in the end of 2013 and took office in 2014, and it was a big deal to have 2 women again on the city council, and I'm really proud to serve with Erin. And shortly after we came into office, we were asked to be on the committee that was looking at CEDAW, and we were both very pleased to be included in that because we think Salt Lake should always be one of the leaders in recognizing the contributions of women and having those contributions recognized financially and in all ways. And we look forward to having the city doing that. I want to share with you a story from my past. When I was a third-year law student at the University of Utah, I was invited to a Women Lawyers of Utah event, and a bar commissioner was asked to speak at this event. And it's a very nice gentleman from one of the major law firms in the city, and he got up and he said, "It is so great to see so many gals taking something on like this." And our reaction was much like yours. And this gentleman was gobsmacked. He could not figure out why that was bothersome. Well, then it was as if someone had handed him a shovel. He said, you know, I'm sure you could all be really great secretaries, but I think that you're doing great things. Good for you for getting into law school. That's so great. We think you can do it, and a lot of you are even pretty. And he was so amazed when afterwards women swarmed him and said, you are no friend to us. And I was surprised shortly thereafter to interview with a major firm and to have them asked in a carefully crafted way, what are your long-term plans? Translation, are you going to get pregnant and will we have to have you leave for a while? Well, I'm happy to say that I think we've made some progress since 1985. But we still have things like that happen. And I hope with our adoption of the CEDAW resolution that we can bring these kinds of issues to the forefront and not just have people be aware of them, but see real change, real difference, seeing women acknowledged as being on par with men in all things. And Erin and I are pleased to represent our constituents, male and female. Erin?
Thank you, Lisa. I'm sorry for my late arrival. Mayor, thank you for hosting such a wonderful event. It's truly an honor, and what a fantastic turnout. CEDAW is the beginning of a conversation that has a beginning much earlier in all of our personal lives, and will find new legs, so to speak, under the city's jurisdiction, momentum, and energy. We are women with different lives. Certainly I look around and I know many of you, we have different endeavors, and yet we can be each other's most difficult obstacles along the way. And I'll share a personal story a little bit with you. When I was campaigning, oftentimes the people who would ask me, how are you going to balance being a mother and a council member should you be elected, were women and not other, and they were not men asking me that question. And the assumption that one cannot handle different streams in one's life as a woman is one that I hope that we will come beyond as my daughter comes of age and considers different paths in her lives, that we can be many things. We can be reporters and attorneys and advocates and peer advisors. We can be judges and attorneys, teachers. We can be religious leaders. We can be political leaders. We can be mothers, and we can be many of those things, even all at once. I am so proud of the women who are here today. Holly Mullen, Jen Seelig, Whitney Evans. You have to cut this part out for your recording on the radio, I'm sorry, but there are women in here who do fantastic things, and today we get to honor a few women who have had an influence on many lives, and I'm going to pause right there so I don't cry and take this in that direction. But I wanted to mention a couple of things that the council has done that I'm so proud of. Our council demanded that we improve the way we test rape kits in this city for all victims of sexual violence, sexual abuse. When it comes to a rape kit testing, we were not doing well enough. As many cities in this country were not doing well enough. And just about a year and a half ago, we changed that. We funded and we created policy that requires every rape kit to be tested. And that is happening now. I'm so proud of that. And we have a council that has taken a direction very much embracing CEDAW. When I came onto the council, I asked our fire chief, then Chief Cook and now Chief Dale, why don't we have more women in the fire department? Both of those chiefs heard my question and ran with it. I'm so happy that I can tell you on April, at the end of April, this coming about 6 weeks from now, the fire department's going to hold Camp Athena, which is the first time it's ever happened, and it's a recruitment and education effort for young girls. They'll be out at the fire training center, they'll spend the day getting to know firefighters, doing some operations, putting the suits on, learning what kind of benefits happen with that career choice. They've looked at their recruitment efforts and the kind of materials they use to do recruiting. They've hired an outreach coordinator who happens to be a female. They're reaching out to the YWCA, the Girl Scouts of America, America and other organizations to start planting that seed in young girls and in young women's minds about this is a realistic career path. We want you to think about us, and we're talking to you here. That's an exciting change, and I hope that this will, with the support of CEDAW initiatives, be an effort that sees more women in our fire department, and the police force could benefit from this as well. I want to just end by reading a portion of the CEDAW. Salt Lake City government is committed to eliminating all forms of inequity against women and girls, eliminating violence against women and girls, promoting the health and safety of women and girls, and affording equal academic, economic, and political opportunities to women and girls in Salt Lake City. That is why we're doing this, for every woman and girl in our city who is yet to come, who is here now, who's standing in this hallway today. We can do better, we are working on it, and we will do better. Thank you.
My name is Stan Penfold. I am honored to be here. Thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity today, in particular, to honor two incredible people that I have the most admiration for. Thank you, council members, also for your support in honoring women who are important in our city today. It's impossible to imagine AIDS in the 80s. It is almost impossible to imagine the fear and the sorrow and the anguish and the death. How do you explain the loss of an entire generation of people who died in their 20s? How do you explain the pain of young people with a 12-month death sentence? Who can imagine from this place here today, in a world of out and proud, of equality in marriage, in gay elected officials, who can imagine today what it was like in the 80s? Even for those of us who were there, it is far too painful to remember. How do you imagine hazmat suits and food left by hospital workers in hallways because they were afraid, and families who abandoned their children out of fear? When I started as a volunteer at the Utah AIDS Foundation, it was not uncommon for our clients to die. 2, 3, sometimes 5 people a week. Who can imagine that? Who can imagine the shame and the fear of telling your family, your friends, your loved ones that you are going to die? And sometimes, almost or more difficult, that you were gay. It was not uncommon for some young people to have to identify to their parents at the same time that they were gay and they were going to die from a life-threatening disease. Many describe AIDS in the 80s as a war, a battle, with all the misery and the death and the post-traumatic stress syndrome and the hopelessness associated with a losing cause. It's hard to remember. There was almost nothing that could be done. Until 1994 and 5, there were no meds for people with HIV. It was truly a death sentence, which makes it all that more amazing and incredible and remarkable that Dr. Ries and Maggie Snyder were there through it all. Frankly, I don't know how they did it. What an amazing combination that came together in the 80s. A group of Catholic nuns, a short little firecracker of a doctor, and a tell-it-like-it-is assistant. If you know Dr. Ries and Maggie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you talk to anyone who survived the early days of AIDS in Utah, they will tell you that it's because of the care, the genuine concern, the compassion, and the love of these two amazing women we honor today. I can think of no one more deserving of this honor. Thank you.
Wow. My name's George Stoddard. My daughter Cindy was a patient of Dr. Kristen, Ries, and Maggie for a number of years. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge other of my family members who are here today. In the second row in a lovely green blouse is Cindy's mother, Jean Francis. Beside her, my oldest daughter, Carla. On the front row, I'm sorry, okay. Please acknowledge Cindy's mother is here. She's in the second row. My oldest daughter, Carla, is here. On the front row on this side is Cindy's, God, I'm going to get this mixed up. Cindy's daughter, Beverly, and beside her, her wife, Jamie, and beside them, their son and my great-grandson, and I mean great in a larger sense than just generational, Kamari. And I'm just so delighted to be able to speak today about these two wonderful women. Excuse my emotion, but believe me, it's genuine. I appreciate the opportunity to spend this time. As I talk about my family, I hope you understand I'm not just talking about my family. My family was one of thousands, perhaps millions, who went through this experience with this disease. So when you hear these words, think of many other people besides us. And in addition to that, I worked as a psychotherapist and an AIDS activist for a number of years, including having to be with patients, making that phone call to their parents and explaining to the parents that they had HIV and they were gay. An emotional time. I first became involved with the AIDS community in November of 1991 when I received a call in Georgia from my daughter, Cindy Jean Stoddard Kidd, during which she said, "Dad, I have AIDS." She explained that she had apparently been infected some number of years earlier and that her immune system was seriously compromised. Sometimes our lives change in a moment, and certainly our family was just one of so many that had this experience. Cindy, one of 8 of my children, was the mother of 4. After processing the complex feelings aroused by her illness, we started developing a plan for the future. Fortunately, she lived in Salt Lake City. As most of you are aware, by that time, Dr. Ries and Maggie had been treating patients for years during the bleakest days of this pandemic, when a diagnosis of AIDS was too often leading to discrimination, debilitation, and death. For the next 4 years, Dr. Ries helped my daughter fight off the threats of multiple opportunistic infections that attacked her vulnerable immune system. I recall the last time Cindy and other members of my family participated in the AIDS walk here in Salt Lake City. Cindy was in a wheelchair at the time. And at the side of the road were Dr. Ries and Maggie, encouraging many who I'm sure they knew. Cindy kept a diary, and her entries during the summer of 1995 are worth noting. It was a time of crisis when Cindy was quite sick. She was writing her obituary with help from her daughter, my oldest daughter, and other family members, and planning her funeral service. After running multiple tests, Dr. Ries got to the source of the problem and directed her treatment. While there was some improvement, Cindy was still struggling. I'd like to share just a few thoughts, if I can, from Cindy's diary during that period of time. And these are Cindy's thoughts. Kristen checked my blood test. The treatment is working. I don't know how much, but the treatment is helping. Without treatment, I have 2 to 3 months. Now I have a chance for more time. I was so sick, Kristen made a house call. She swears the house call made me better. You had to be really sick to get a house call. She scared me, but she was right again. I started feeling better, progressively better. Thanks to Dr. Ries, Cindy did recover from that episode and participated in many significant family events in the following months that allowed her and other family members to create important memories before her death in January of 1996, just on the cusp of all of those new medications. Had she lasted a few months longer, I believe she'd be with us today. I moved with my wife Sherry, I moved to southwest Utah in 1998, and I continued my work there as an AIDS activist and in the community, and also in my role as a psychotherapist at times. Dr. Ries and Maggie responded to the needs of our community by arranging with the local health department to bring her team to St. George about every 6 weeks to provide essential medical services to those in our area who had that need, and who until then were having to travel to either Las Vegas or Salt Lake City for treatment. I can't overemphasize how important that was to so many people in need. I believe the work of the clinic continues today under the direction of Dr. Rosado. Over the years, I have encountered friends and former clients who were patients at the clinic. They would share with me their respect and gratitude of Dr. Ries and Maggie. We have come so far. Just 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with a friend who I have known for many, many years and who has the disease under control. And he also shared with me his continuing affection and gratitude for Dr. Ries. Dr. Ries and Maggie, I'm sure you understand that I speak for many when I see in you both the embodiments of compassion, empathy, exquisite technical and professional competence, authenticity, caring, commitment, and so many other virtues that have touched the lives of so many. For me, these two women, I will forever carry their images deeply in my soul, and their images that radiate their beauty and their love. Namaste.
Good morning. Sorry. I'm thrilled to see how many people are here from the media, understanding the importance of today. So thank you for being here. I want to start by saying thank you to Council members Erin Mendenhall and Lisa Adams, along with Yolanda Francisco-Nez for your work on behalf of the CEDAW resolution. Much of that work preceded my administration, but I'm very grateful that in the end I could play a role in this effort toward ending all types of discrimination. So thank you. During this month, Women's History Month, we look for pioneering women in our community to celebrate. Here in Salt Lake City, a community with a pioneering heritage, it's not difficult to find them. We are standing in a wing with a room named after the first woman in the nation to be elected as a state senator Dr. Martha Hughes Cannon. And of course, this amazing woman, Salt Lake City's first female mayor, Dee Dee Corradini, who among many things brought the world to Salt Lake City for the 2002 Winter Olympics. And today we are celebrating two pioneers in our community, Dr. Kristen Ries and Maggie Snyder. These two incredible women exemplify the spirit of our community. As medical professionals, their work was groundbreaking and has influenced the way we care for those affected by HIV/AIDS today. But more importantly, as we have heard from George, and thank you to your family who's all here today, Kristen and Maggie's work touched lives in the deepest possible way. Without question, there are people living today because of Kristen and Maggie who provided care when others would not. Maggie and Kristen brought dignity to individuals in their final days when the rest of society worked so hard to steal even that from them. And their compassion brought solace to countless families. I'm not only honored, but humbled to issue my first proclamation as the mayor of Salt Lake City. In honor of these two incredible women. Thank you. Will you please stand? For more than 3 decades, whereas for more than 3 decades, an HIV/AIDS epidemic claimed millions of lives and created fear and misunderstanding for those living with this virus. And whereas those living with HIV and AIDS in Salt Lake City, especially members of the LGBTQ community, face discrimination in accessing health care and were often turned away in the process. And whereas the team of Dr. Kristen Ries and Maggie Snyder stepped up in the earliest years of the HIV/AIDS crisis to treat people when many others would not, spending long hours and personal time ministering to their patients and often supporting them through a dignified dying process. And whereas Kristen and Maggie were pioneering women in the medical field, adding to vital research and greater understanding into the causes and treatment of HIV/AIDS, and whereas their efforts have contributed to great progress in Salt Lake City, Utah, and nationally toward education, prevention, social policy, and medical treatment that now allows approximately 1.2 million people in the U.S. to live longer and more fulfilling lives with HIV. And whereas March is National Women's History Month, designated to honor women who have made history by contributing their knowledge and talents to society, and we are deeply grateful to Kristen and Maggie for their humane and groundbreaking work in public health and in championing social justice. Now, therefore, I, Jacqueline M. Biskupski, Mayor of Salt Lake City, do hereby proclaim March 29, 2016 as Kristen Ries and Maggie Snyder Day, and encourage all residents to reflect on and honor their service to humanity the powerful example they have set for girls and young women, and their many contributions to our city, state, and nation.
Mayor, and all of our friends that are here. It's really an honor that HIV and AIDS is still on the radar, and that's one of the reasons we're happy to be here, plus to see all of our friends. And I'd like to comment that Cindy is so firm in my mind all the time, because she was probably the most brave woman I ever knew. It's really funny, because I arrived here in Salt Lake City in 1981. It was in 1981 that the first Women's History Week began. And it was also in 1981 that AIDS was first described. So I think it was all serendipity and fortunate. And Maggie came in '82. And I want you to know that it all is a matter of fact that we happened to come to the right place at the right time with the right training and education to take on things. And I mean training and education, formal and plus from our families and parents. I think that we must not forget those that have HIV/AIDS and just keep it on the radar, because it's still there. It's still, many people have died. We need to remember them. But we need to remember those that are living with HIV right now and those that unfortunately are getting HIV. The epidemic really brought out the best of our society and the worst. Today I met so many people from way back at Holy Cross days and everything, and it's been delightful. So I want to also thank Salt Lake City for accepting us and letting us stay here and have this be our home. And as everybody knows, Maggie's much better with words, and so I'm going to let her speak.
I'm not sure that that's true. It's beyond our wildest dreams that we would ever have a day named after us. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the City Council. In the early years, HIV took away those that we loved. We count the days, the months, the years that they have been gone. We recognize their birthdays and calculate how old they would have been. Our hearts ache at each anniversary. It was a war battled fiercely and full of tragedy. HIV came to marginalized groups in an age when we hid from society, a time when many were afraid of being found out, afraid of the HIV virus, afraid of loss of their livelihood, afraid of death, afraid. HIV changed our world. It taught us about the human condition. It brought marginalized populations seeking life. We learned about unconditional love. Sometimes our only medicine was love. Sometimes our only treatment was a hug. To a population that often felt dirty, untouchable, and unloved. The people living with HIV/AIDS taught us about their world, the world that brought them stigma, discrimination, and hatred. HIV taught us compassion and humility. It taught us how to be activists in a world full of blind institutions. It was our silent efforts at social justice for people who needed medical care in a time where there was none, no social justice, and no medical care. An inherent tradition of women. What we did for love. For people who felt unloved, for people who were alone. Then the researchers, one by one, banded together in a race to develop tests, treatments, and medications. HIV changed how medicine was researched and delivered. It changed how other diseases are treated today. One by one, the healthcare providers became experts and warriors who fought the patient's battles with a newly developing scientific armamentarium. One by one, people with HIV stopped dying and started living. A memorable day when there wasn't a daily obituary. We are thankful for the medications that finally controlled the disease for many. We are thankful for the knowledge that prevents HIV. We are thankful for the people that step forward to care for people with HIV and those that continue to do so. It has been our honor and privilege to know and care for people with HIV, to be allowed into their homes, to know their partners, their families, and their friends. Their lives have touched us in ways that words do not describe. We are thankful for the many survivors with HIV. We are humbled to be part of Utah's history. We must not forget it. Let this history teach our youth and future generations who did not live through the HIV battlefields. We say thank you to the many people, colleagues, and team members who have helped us along the way. We thank our women mentors, those strong women that made history before us, including our mothers, our sisters, our aunts, our family. HIV/AIDS changed the world. We never thought we would be part of Utah's history. We merely saw a need and tried to help. May we remember to love and to take care of our fellow humans, for it is all we really have. Thank you.